Hi, Michael MacBride here. A quick pitch for my proposal presentation about the Forgotten Cartoonists of the Advocate magazine, 67 to 74. Anyone interested in history or LGBTQIA history, comics, comic strips, the Advocate magazine, Los Angeles history, I think will find this engaging and interesting. I started researching these cartoonists in this era around 2006 or so, and a different project kind of took me down that rabbit hole. But since then, I've gone to the One Archives in Los Angeles and visited Stonewall Museum and Archive there. And some of these things have been published in The Advocate. Um, Other pieces I presented at the San Diego Comic Con. But now my hope is really to expand the network of people working on this project. So the presentation is both informational, informative, but it's also a call for help. But this is essentially what it is. LGBTQI history is often overlooked, and the contributions of the gay cartoonists in the 60s and 70s remain an underappreciated part of this narrative. In fact, one of them, John Sam Allen, is actually the person who named The Advocate. The Advocate. He created the layout and kind of the format that the magazine would follow. He contributed cartoons and comics. He wrote recipes. He did lots of things and had a long-running editorial that spoke openly about his coming out story and his struggles with his parents. Um, and The Advocate, this magazine, which grew out of Los Angeles, is definitely one of the most influential publications and longest running. It provided a platform for other cartoonists that came after John Sam Allen. And their combined sense of humor, activism, personal expression at a time when queer voices were largely silenced in the mainstream media is unique and important to look at, and to make sure we don't lose that part of the history. So the presentation will explore essentially how these artists use their comics to kind of push back against societal oppression. I mean, the raids on the bars at the time, all those things are reflected in these comics. They talk about the queer experience of the time. They create a space where there's this opportunity for self-expression in a time of deep discrimination. So I will analyze the artistic techniques they used. I'll talk about the cultural impact. We'll talk about people like Joe Johnson, who is this weird enigma, but one of the most prolific people in the pages of The Advocate. And then my hope is obviously you walk away with understanding the historical significance of these cartoonists, kind of the societal and political themes explored in their work, and that evolution of queer representation in comics and media. And then also how their legacy continues with people like Alison Bechdel, who came into The Advocate in the 80s, and their impact as well. So thank you.